Hey, family. It is your sister here, Jocelyn, and I want to welcome you to our season finale called The Relaunch. And for those of you who might be just tuning in, just coming across this scroll for some reason, you might not know what I'm talking about, but I am relaunching my book today, Breaking the Power of the Mask. And you're going to get a chance to hear a lot more about that book later on in this broadcast. But before I go any further, the first thing I want to do is thank you. That's right, you. Those who are part of my tribe, those who are part of my community, the Faith on the Journey community, that is. I appreciate you. You have no idea how grateful I am for you. In moments like this, when you are trying to move a mission forward, and that's really what it is. I had a vision for Faith on the Journey that was much bigger than myself to make an impact on the world and help people to understand that the Bible has the power to heal. And this is something that I can't do on my own. And to see how people have latched onto this vision and stood by me and lifted me up when I was feeling tired, I appreciate you. Your emails, your texts, your phone calls, sharing things on social media. It makes all the difference to me in the world. And so I thank you for your support. I think back to when I first wrote this book, and it's been quite the journey, I would say. You know, I like the word journey, right? But it happened around 2 years ago, and I remember I decided that I was going to take a week off of work, and I was gonna go away. I drove to, Peoria, and I rented an Airbnb, and I was like, "I'm just gonna lock myself in this room, and I'm gonna start writing this book." And I had all these different ideas. I was like, "Okay, well, I ran a marathon. Maybe I can tie a book into, uh, you know, athletic stuff." I was just coming up with all type of crazy stuff. I was thinking like maybe something, an analogy around a marathon. Then I thought about some other type of analogy, and I just couldn't get it, and I was so frustrated. And this is when God's timing is perfect, because sometimes the answer, what you're looking for, won't come right away. And we want things right now. At least I'm speaking for Jocelyn. Jocelyn like things like right away. God is still working on my patience, and so I had to sit with the book for a little bit, and I still was writing, and I still had concepts and ideas. But I remember just being in a coffee shop one day, and the song by Tupac Shakur came to my mind. Keep your head up. When he was saying, "I was given this world, I didn't make it." And then it just dawned on me. It was like, yeah, I was given this mask, but I didn't make it. It just clicked. And I was like, oh yes. And I just kind of got into this writer's flow, and I just started writing chapter one of the book, and things kind of fell into place. And it was amazing. And I tell people who have read my book and been blessed by it. I was like, look, y'all, I got the credit, but God was the ghostwriter for my book. So all glory goes to God. And I'm serious. And it was definitely a challenge for me, because for those of you who might be considering writing a book, you're vulnerable in that you're sharing parts of yourself. It's kind of like you're working behind the scenes on your baby, and you don't know if people gonna call your baby ugly. You like, oh, should I release it? Is it ready? Is it good enough? And I actually, the summer that I wrote the book, or was preparing to write the book, I was out in Tennessee with some incredible women by who participate in a mentoring program that I work with called Purpose by Design. And they heard me asking all these questions. I was just interviewing different women and trying to get concepts together for the book. And I was telling them, I was just being honest. I'm like, I don't know if I can do this. I'm like, this is kind of like a crazy idea that I'm about to write this book. And they was like, no, no, you can do this. And they spoke life into me. And so things like that make a difference, because I realize that sometimes God is calling us to do something that is bigger than ourselves, that we don't feel ready for, that we might feel like we don't have the credentials. I don't have the degrees, or I don't, have enough experience in this field, and all these different things. Just like we think about Moses when God was calling him to step out and free his people. Moses' response was like, "Well, wait a minute, I stutter." Okay, like what do you? I'm not ready for this, right? And so sometimes we think about the things that we don't have quite together yet, and we start questioning if we should do it. And I'm telling you, if God has given you a vision, if God's called you to step out, whether it's write a book, get on stage, start acting, whatever, start a ministry, start a nonprofit. Just because you haven't done it yet doesn't mean that God's not going to qualify you or give you the resources you need to do this work. We need to know that God's the one who qualifies those he calls. So we don't always have to have it all together. So I'm just sharing with you to say that for me, this was a leap of faith. And I am grateful in the process of me stepping out and trusting God in this process that he's blessed people along the way. And so sometimes we just got to be obedient, obedient, even if it doesn't make sense. Step out. And those are who are watching right now. I encourage you. And I see you, Robin, Jan, Mimi. Thank you all so much for being here and being a part of my tribe. And if I'm speaking to you right now, please tell me what vision God has put on your heart, and I'm encouraging you today to stop putting it off. You know, we have bucket lists that we often have like in our lives, like, well, one day I'm going to run a marathon. One day I'm going to write a book. One day I'm going to go skydiving, even though you will never see your girl over here skydiving because I'm afraid of heights. But you get my point, right? One day I'm going to do XYZ. Put in the chat for me or whatever you're watching. What is that one day for you? And can we just move that up and actually plan a date and say, you know what? God has been tugging at my heart about this thing for so long. And when God is calling you to do certain things, especially if it's a God sized dream, it's always bigger than you. And you realize if you get past yourself and what you want is beyond anything that you can think of in terms of the impact. So, okay, Mimi's working on an audiobook. That's right. I need you to go ahead, Mimi. And if you need help with that, direct message me afterwards, right? Because that's another thing I'm learning is that we cannot do this stuff alone. A lot of the stuff we don't know how to do, but you can find out how to do it because somebody else has done it before you. Okay. There's a thing called YouTube. You can look this stuff up, right? So we have to be learners and seek out the resources that we need to step out in faith. And so I'm just sharing a little bit off the cuff, some things that has been a part of my process and my journey. And I'm hoping that it's blessing you. But again, going back to what I said earlier, this book was a process that has helped me to grow so much as an individual because you can't put something out there like that and not be challenged to be authentic, to be real with yourself, to start seeing. I'm talking about a mask. I'm talking telling people to remove their mask. I had to look at all the masks. And I mean, some of these masks were like pasted on my face. like, and I'm sitting here like, man, this is hard, And so I don't want you. That's right, a labor of love. I don't want you ever, when you're looking at me, to think that I have this all figured out. I could present myself as that, but then I would be over here telling stories. I am on this journey with you, and I'm trying to take people along the way. And so, what's going to happen for me this summer? This is the end of this broadcast season. I will be back in the fall and I'm cooking up some good things for you. And I have some great guests in the lineup. But I wanted to take the summer to really get this message out here with this book because people need this. Yes, I'm trying to become a bestseller on Amazon, and Lord willing, that is going to happen either today or someday this summer. It's going to happen. But beyond all that, the message in this book is so important. People need this. And so I'm going to do whatever I can to get this book in the hands of as many people as possible. So I'm going to be doing a virtual book tour. We still virtual with COVID, right? I'm going to be teaching. I'm teaching this this month at a church, APC of Morgan Park, and you can actually tune in on Sunday mornings for that. If you're interested, I can make sure that you get the link to tune into my teaching series at that church. But I'm also teaching at other churches over the summer about my book and about the process of healing from shame, from unforgiveness, grief, trauma, and how God's word plays a critical part in helping you to do that. So, again, follow me on social media. If you're not on my email list, please, you can actually, I'll put this information for you, pull this banner up really quickly. Get on my email list. This is how you can subscribe and stay in touch with me. I put information out there, not just about events, but other resources that are designed to help you grow your faith to heal on your journey. So make sure that you check that out, follow that, as I'll put that back up again later on in this broadcast. But what I wanted to do was kind of give you a sneak preview of some of the teaching. And yes, I am. We're about to become a bestseller on Amazon, Mimi. Thank you. I'm going to put together, just share with you, excuse me, a couple pieces of some presentations that I do with some of the churches. And so you can kind of get a taste of that. And then you can follow along over the summer with some of the work that I'm doing. So I'm going to share my screen. Y'all pray for me that I don't just completely jack this up, because I'm doing this. I don't have my producer working with me today. So give me a second, please, to bring my screen up. All right. So we got that. Hopefully you can see it. All right, we up, we up. Okay. So yes, we're talking about taking this mask off, y'all. That's what we are doing. And you see this picture here. This is actually one of my favorite pictures. You see me over here looking like I'm in a magazine. Shout out to my photographer, Michael Gunn. Love you. So it just shows me being happy, right? But here's the thing: if we just are honest, what's behind this smile? And for many years, I'm talking about many years, I was hiding so much pain. People knew me from my professional achievements. Financially, I was doing well. Education, I've been in school. I don't know why I keep going back to school, but education, I had romantic relationships and church leadership. So people looking like, yeah, she got it together. She got her thing going on. She good, great family, good stock, all that. But I'm telling you, I was on the struggle bus dealing with so much pain, so much shame from things that I had gone through in my past that I felt like I couldn't talk to anybody about. And so I presented myself going back as this smiley face. You could put this smile on of perfection, but what's really going on behind the mask? And so I had to ask myself that question, because eventually wearing this smile on your face, you get tired. Do you ever get tired of just saying, when people ask you, how you doing? Yeah, I'm okay. Knowing that that's not the truth, knowing that you need a space to be honest about the fact that you're struggling, right? And so that was me. And the process, I talk a lot in my book about this process of actually removing my mask. And so I won't go into that, but I'm telling you, I know how it is to present yourself in a certain way to the world and feel fake the entire time, right? And so what I have decided to do and commit my life to is, while I'm on this healing journey, because there's certain things I'm still working through, I want to take people along this path with me. And I have this picture of this place in the forest. It's like a path, right? And you see, you're kind of walking down this road, and you don't know how it's looking, but you see yourself on a journey. And that's exactly what we're on. We're on a healing journey together. And it it is a process involved in this. And this quote that you're seeing right here, I love this quote. It's by a girlfriend of mine who I wrote about in my book. She said, sometimes the only way to heal is to hurt. And I love this quote, because it's the truth. I mean, anybody who has really done heart work, you know that this process hurts, because you have to start peeling back layers of things that you just didn't want to deal with. You just rather leave it in the past. But it was an example I used in the book. Actually, it was a quote from a gentleman who I interviewed in one of my broadcasts called, his name is Romal Toon. And he was describing how he remembered playing football in high school, and he got in this accident on the field where he broke his leg. And the doctors told him that, he could just try to let his injury heal on its own. But if he just didn't do anything, he would always have a limp. right? And so when we think about that in our context, we could try to let certain injuries, emotional injuries, if you will, heal on its own. But many of us are walking around with an emotional limp. But the alternative in this story, Romal said the doctor gave him option number 2, which was the doctor said he could reset his leg, which means like pretty much breaking it to get it back in place. And he would be able to fully recover from his injury. And the resetting process is painful, right? And many people don't want to go through that process of actually being broken down and dealing with all that hurt so that you can fully heal. And that's the thing. God doesn't want us walking around emotionally wounded, emotionally broken. He wants us healed, but that is a process. And it requires you to name the pain. Sometimes we won't even name the fact that someone hurt us, and partly that's due to people being silenced. Many of us, our stories, our pain, our struggles have been silenced by people in our lives. It might have been family, it might have been church, it might have been friends who said that you can't talk about that. We don't deal with things like this. And I'm telling you that sometimes you just have to be able to say, I'm hurting right now. And that's a huge step in your healing journey. I also want you to recognize it's an active process, right? So when you think about, like, even if you are going to a therapist to talk about whatever you're going through, the therapist can listen, maybe give advice, but you have to do more than just talk. There's some doing involved. It's some studying God's word. It's actually working on renewing your mind. It's steps involved in this process. You can't be a bystander in this, right? And the path is not straightforward. I wish I can say, Sister Susie, you take XYZ step, and this is going to take all the pain away, and you're going to be just fine. You know what? Every person's healing journey is different because your story is unique. What you've gone through is unique. And so, yes, I can share. And this is why I share different testimonies, because I want you to see different people and what they've gone through and how they've made it. And God has worked in their life to get them to a place where they have been emotionally healed. But there's no cut and dry way. You have to listen to the Holy Spirit. You have to let God work on your heart to help you on your healing path. But no, He's with you, right? And He'll speak to you and tell you which way to go. I also want you to note that it involves our mind, body, and spirit, right? And obviously, I focus on spirit because I believe healing, it ultimately comes from God. But there also are some things that we need to do to care for our minds and bodies in this process. And that's something that I will be teaching more on this summer, right? Also, remember, you will be met with resistance. Satan don't want you to get healed. He is coming at you, right? Because he knows that if you are emotionally wounded, if you're emotionally locked up, if he has you in this stronghold, then you won't be as effective in the work that God is calling you to do. But I need you to know that your healing is of the utmost importance. Because again, going back to what I said earlier, it's beyond you. There's so much that's waiting to come out of you, but it's being suppressed if you are still wrestling with strongholds that Satan has you in, right? And so just understand that this will be a process. And the last thing I want to point out here is that people can walk with you, but they can't carry you there. And I hope that makes sense. I hope that you see that even though someone can say, hey, this is the Bible verse, this is what you can do, you need to pray. But that old saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. I can't make you forgive someone. I can't make you accept God's love. That's a personal decision. That's something that you have to do, right? And so just keeping that in mind as you are going on your journey, right? So we see this mask here, right? Obviously, we tired of this mask. All of us are wearing these masks and can't see each other's facial expressions. I know I'm over it. And if you over it, put that in the chat, right? But understanding that this mask that we're wearing with COVID has a lot of parallels to the mask that we're wearing, this emotional mask, right? Because when we look at the mask for COVID, it's used to protect us, right? We're trying to not get the virus. But when it comes to the emotional mask we're wearing, we're using that to protect ourselves from being hurt from other people, right? So we're using to protect ourselves from maybe being rejected. So we have to wear this mask of perfection, or we're using this mask where we're coming off as strong because we don't want people to see us as vulnerable because they might think less of us. Whatever that may be, we use these emotional masks. We wear these emotional masks to protect ourselves. We also use it to hide what's underneath, preventing people from truly seeing you. That's the thing. When we wear this COVID mask, this physical mask, people really can't see you. Like, I don't know if this has just happened to me, but there's been times where I am in church. Our church actually is meeting again in person. And I would walk past someone I know because I couldn't recognize them behind the mask. I was like, oh, my bad. Right. But the same thing applies here because when it comes to our emotional mask, we're really hiding people from seeing who we truly are. I know people who wear this mask of I don't know what to call it, of bitterness. Like it's like they're angry, this tough persona. And I'm sitting here and they'll say certain things like, well, this is just how I am, people just need to accept me. And it's like, no, I refuse to believe that. The bitterness right there, this mentality that you have of toughness is just a facade, it's a front, it's the mask that you're wearing to hide that you've really been hurt. Right. And there's really goodness in you, but you're not letting people see it because you're wearing this mask. And so we all have different masks that we wear. It separates us. For me, I hate having intimate conversations with people who are wearing a mask because I can't see their facial expressions. Even if we're sitting closely, I feel like we're far apart. And the same thing happens when we're wearing emotional masks because when we think about it, it prevents intimacy. It prevents that connection. It makes you feel separate, because when you find yourself in spaces where you can be honest and vulnerable and remove the mask with your closest friends, your spouse, your family members, then it creates this connection. It says, yes, I'm here to hold you. We're right here together, right? And so we have to understand that this mask that we're wearing is keeping us separate from other people who really want to be in our inner circle and be there for us, right? Also, and many of you can attest to that the mask can feel like you are being suffocated. Sometimes I cannot wait to get to my car so I can be like, let me take off this mask. I can't breathe. But I feel like it's the same way when after you wear this mask day after day, sometimes you feel like you are just suffocating, metaphorically speaking, because you're like, no one knows me. I feel like I can't breathe because I'm putting on this front, right? And so the mask is not meant for you to wear all the time. Like this mask that we wear, like for Corona, at some point we have to take it off. You don't go to sleep. At least I hope you don't go to sleep with this mask on. And the same thing for this mask that we're wearing. At some point, there needs to be spaces where we can remove this mask and let people see us for who we really are. So I'm gonna stop sharing my screen for just a second because I want to see like what's going on in the chat. Okay, so we good. Name the pain. Yes, so over it. Yes, Robert, that's right. Created in his image. Those are things I need you to grab on and hold on to, right? Because it's true. We are created in his image, right? And so going back to this presentation, I'm moving along. I need to hear from you all as you're talking. So I'm just checking the chat when I can. So as we continue, looking at this, the sculpting of the mask, right? So a couple things sculpt it. The environment, our experiences, and teaching helps to shape our mask. So, for example, our family. When we enter in the world, our family plays a big part in this. And you got to ask yourself questions like, did my family provide me a space to talk about subjects that might be difficult, right? Like, for example, sexuality. You might have been a teenager and you wanted to have conversations around this. And, if your parents' response was like, don't have sex or else you a slut, I'm just gonna put it out there, or you're gonna get pregnant or whatever. And that was that. And they just didn't give you a space to talk about it. Then you feel like, well, I have to put on this front and I can't have a open conversation about the things that I'm struggling with. Or like if you had some things that were traumatic happen to you and your family, and you wanted to talk about like or tell somebody that you might have been abused, you might have experienced some type of pain or trauma, and the response from your family is like, you know what, well, time heals all wounds, you'll get over it, or just toughen up or whatever. That right there is shaping your mask. And it's telling you how you deal with pain, and that you can't be honest or authentic with people around you. And so those are some examples. And some things are not as overt, but our family does play a role in helping us to see how we deal with trauma, pain, and process difficult subjects, right? But then the community, what about our friends? What about the church? When we think about even like our experiences with people who are good people. Please don't get me wrong. I love my church people, but there's people who walk around and anytime you ask them how they doing, they too blessed to be stressed. They too blessed to be depressed, lying. Cause you got you got some stuff going on. And yes, it's good to be positive. Don't get me wrong. It's good to give God glory. But sometimes we need spaces to say, you know what, I'm hurting. And to get to some of the realness of this, like when we think about some of the issues that we're dealing with right now, right? With grief and loss, many people have lost close and dear loved ones. And one of the things that we like to do is help people to see hope in difficult situations. And we want to encourage people, and we want them to know that God is real, and especially if they're a believer, they are in heaven, and all these things are good, and it's true that they are with our maker. But at the same time, one thing we have to learn to do is if somebody is grieving in our space, in our church, we also have to give them the space to name that they're hurting. We also have to give them the space to sit in their pain and not try to fix them per se, right? And so when we say, like Christianese cliches, I'll call them, or we say even something like, for example, if someone is dealing with a struggle with forgiveness, they had a spouse cheated on them, or there was abuse happening in the household, physical, domestic violence, whatever, and we're trying to tell them you have to forgive. Yes, we're called to forgive. However, can we at least give that person a space to name their pain? Can they say that they're upset? Can they say that they're angry? Can they have a space to remove their mask? Or do we have an environment where we're constantly pushing people to just put on this face because I'm too blessed to be stressed? I can't tell you, I can't show you that I'm struggling. We have to stop that. We have to give people spaces to be real about their struggle. So then in time we can walk with them, we can accompany them. I see you, Robin. Yes, we are so programmed. We are so programmed in presenting the mask, it's not even funny. But we need a space so that we can talk through our pain. Yes, we're going to take it to the cross, but can we be authentic in the process, right? If you're following me. And then we look at media. We look at social media. Y'all know sometimes you just get worn out by seeing these perfect selfies of everybody just over here living their best life, doing the most. And it's like, yes, like, am I the only one who over here cannot get it together on the struggle bus? Is anybody on the struggle bus with me? Sometimes you just want to know I'm on the struggle bus with somebody else, right? But we like to present ourselves as being in this picture perfect light, and it's not always like that, right? And that's just not in social media. That's in movies and all that, airbrush magazines. And so we are again given this mask by this world, and we have to understand that's not everybody has a picket fence with a dog and green grass and the 2.5 kids. Not everybody has that. People have issues. You just don't see their issues, right? And so understanding that we're not in this struggle alone. And then the sculpting on the mask is also developed by our internal desires. And this is a big one, right? Because when we look at some of our desires to be loved, to be wanted, and yes, like God designed us to want love, but and to need love, excuse me. But if we're trying to fill that need with things other than the eternal love that comes from God, and we start trying to fill this love and this acceptance with things of this world, right? Then it's going to come up short. And sometimes these internal desires to be accepted causes us to put on this mask to present ourselves in this way, whether it's being perfect, whether it's laughing at jokes that aren't funny, whether it's whatever, to get those things that we want. And it's time out for that. We have to check our internal desires and our motives as to why we're wearing these masks. And I can't get into this all in this short presentation. Again, I'm just giving you a snippet so y'all follow me on social and you can see more of this. But there's a lot involved in wearing this mask, right? And so I'm actually going to stop there because we are at this 30-minute mark, and I wanted to give you all a chance. If there are a couple questions, you can put it in the chat. If there's some things you'd like to share with me, by all means, let me know. I'm trying to bring this back up on the screen so I can see you all. But I'm loving the comments. I'm loving what you all are saying. I mean, I'm hoping that this teaching is standing out for you and that is meaningful for you. But at the end of the day, I'm here to tell you that there's so much more to you than what you believe is present. And by that, listen, I've learned that sometimes you can wear a mask for so long that you start to believe it's your identity and you're deceived, right? And I was using that example earlier about the bitter woman. And she has worn that mask for so long of pain that she's convinced herself that that's her personality, and it's not, right? That is not your true identity. And there's certain things that we need to deconstruct. And if you all have followed me on the writing the new narrative, there's certain narratives about ourselves, about our future, about our reality that we need to deconstruct and ask ourselves, is this really what God's saying about me? Is this really who I am? Or am I acting out of my hurt? Right. And so these are things that we have to ask ourselves along our journey, and this takes time. And so I'm encouraging you, if you're blessed by this, to follow me along. And again, sign up for my email list, sign up, subscribe on YouTube, please, because I want to give you throughout the summer snippets and teaching and things that will encourage you. And I encourage you to share this information with someone else if this was helpful for you. But my God, if I can't say it enough. I am thankful for each and every one of you for being a part of this journey with me. Let's continue to do what we need to do to help other people find freedom, find joy in everything that God has promised to them beyond this mask that we've been wearing. And so this has been an incredible season. Please, I'm forgetting to let y'all know where you all can get this lovely book. Okay. So if you haven't gotten my book yet, it's called Breaking the Power of the Mask. And I actually have a link to link you back to Amazon at breakingthemask.com. So if you just remember breakingthemask.com, you can visit there. And there, here's the cool thing. I have a free workbook available for you. And this workbook is going to take you there. I'm just giving you a heads up. There's a lot of questions and a lot of deep diving, have you reflect on some of the things that you need to uncover on this healing journey so that you can really begin to heal. So check out this book. Please grab a copy on Amazon today. And there's other outlets in which you can get it as well. I'll let you know that about that on my email list. And you can most certainly also, follow me on Facebook and Instagram. I'm on all the social media platforms. So you'll find all the information on the website, which is faithonthejourney.org. So that is it for this broadcast. I hope it blessed you. I cannot wait until our next season. I got some good things in store for you. But until then, my family, you stay blessed and you keep your faith on the journey. I'll see you soon.